Peter, thank you so much for joining us in the Sports Editor. It's really good to chat to you, and you come with quite a reputation, obviously being in England, coaching Currie Cup rugby sides as well, and now we find yourself at Paarl Boys High. Great school. So, Peter, thank you so much, Tom. Good to chat rugby. But first question, Peter, rugby. What would we do without it?
Well, we're learning how it feels to be without it, that's for sure. It's a very good question. And the stage I've got to now at the moment, obviously it's a career for me. And but you've got to look back on how it all started and why do boys enjoy rugby so much. So first of all, it was always something that even if you played in the A or B or C team, it was something that you did with your mates and it was lots of fun. And obviously, I'm quite old now, but that was back in the day. It was your Saturday, families were there and, there was no life like we have it now with, the digital world and stuff like that. So rugby was sort of a way of life and obviously being in isolation and apartheid, weekends you'd go to Newlands and you'd have 40, 50,000 people watching a game of rugby. So obviously the world's changed, everything has changed. And we're now sitting in a situation where a year ago, I would say I wouldn't play a rugby match if we couldn't have parents or supporters supporting schoolboy rugby. And look how that's changed within a year, just the desperation of wanting to play rugby. And obviously, boys are missing out hugely, not just rugby, I think sports in general. And I think we will see the effects of the impact it has had on children and the way they live life going forward. I read a very interesting article on Twitter, or not an article, just a quote, about a lot of boys, because rugby or NFL is so hard that, as parents, we say, no, okay, well, my son's not going to be doing rugby anymore. And rugby is a hard sport. It's a demanding sport. It takes a lot of things that we take for granted in society, I think, and we're losing more and more of it. So without getting too deep, that's where we are. Boys will not play any rugby further this year, which is obviously disappointing for the boys. But I think every school has its own prerogative and ideas and vision, etc. And unfortunately, we are now, Ryan, we won't have any rugby going forward.
Yeah, it is unfortunate. And, it's always been such a good thing to do on a Saturday. Come watch Paarl Boys play Belgium, for example, and whatever other fixtures you may have. So,
yes.
I guess it does take a bit out of the wind out of your sails, but that's just something you have to deal with. But I'm going to come back to that a bit later if you don't mind. But I want to start with your coaching at Griquas, and really, really interesting time there. Good time for you, I'd say, successful time. But they really seem to be packing a punch above their weight, and I say that respectfully because I think they're currently sitting third on the Currie Cup log.
Yes,
what do you make of their performance?
Yeah, look, I think I was there for 5 seasons. I absolutely loved it. And, it's one of those things, sorry to leave, but, I had 5 years and it was a difficult time. But I'm a massive Griquas supporter now. So, I've got all my mates phoning me on the weekend. What do you think is going to happen? And it's like sport bets and stuff. I said, back Griquas this weekend. It's never been, I don't think it's been done. I have to do my research. But Griquas have got to double over Western Province this season. And I think all credit to Matty and the boys. And I've still got some of the guys I coached there, and I've had good banter with them over the weekend. I'm just delighted for them, really. It's one of those game situations where you're completely against all odds. And if you think of it, just looking at a budget that they have compared to the 4 big boys, it's remarkable what they've achieved. And this Saturday they play the first game, and if Pumas and Griquas should draw the game and they both got 2 points, that would be both of those teams in the semis. They can't get any higher, or so it's either they need to have at least a point, or I think 2 to be very safe. So I'm very excited for them, and it's something I couldn't achieve, so I'm very happy for them.
No,
getting into a semi.
Yeah, but I mean, another good side to talk about is the Pumas as well. Been great to see it. But does it almost give a wake-up call to other franchises? But it's good for South African rugby, don't you think? What the Pumas has also achieved.
Yes, 100%. I think, first of all, we have to take into account, I think we've got over 350 players applying their trade overseas, which in a way is obviously bad for us. In a way, it's good for the players that earn good income. But at the same time, if you look at the positive side, it's giving youngsters and boys or players that wouldn't necessarily have played already, they're already involved in Currie Cup. You know, we're breeding a new generation of players. So it depends how you look at it. I'm quite positive for it. I think we've seen a nice brand of rugby from a lot of the sides. And I think more importantly, it just shows you, I'm a big for promotion relegation. I'd love to follow the systems that they have in Europe, England, etc. You know, we've cut down, I think we had 14 unions. We've cut that down to, you know, 7 unions playing in the top division. Could we make it 8 or do we cut it further and have a promotion relegation? So financially, though, as everyone knows, rugby is in a bit of trouble in the country, and you know, sorry we had to make some difficult calls a few years ago. And you know, we don't understand all the implications. Why don't we have 14 unions playing, or 12? You know, French do it, English have it. You know, what we've got so many players, but we don't also have the finances, I think, and that's what it boils down to.
Yeah, and that's maybe a point that's misunderstood, because even I was quite one pro for getting 14 teams in, you know, yeah. But I guess, yeah, it comes down to money, it's true. But yeah, let's see what happens. But you touched on England, and you obviously spent some time there. And let's talk about the school environment there. Is there, well, it's definitely something not new to you. How did you find the transition coming from English schools to South African schools, specifically Paarl Boys?
Okay, so first of all, my first role, I worked for England Rugby, which is known as the RFU. And one of those roles, I played a rugby development officer. The difference between the two countries is that the private or posh schools play rugby in England. And our goal was to try and get into state schools, and through use of community rugby coaches and a program in place, monitoring and recording, we were able to get people into those state schools and start rugby programs. However, they have a different dilemma where a lot of the public or posh boys play, I shouldn't use posh boys, private schools, play rugby, but then they also they join a club. So they play on a Saturday, but they also play on a Sunday. Right. A lot of boys in England play rugby on a Sunday. It's a fantastic environment. It's a bit like our school rugby on a Saturday, where all the parents are involved, etc. And a lot of the parents start coaching inside, because the kids maybe at under 8. So parents go, and there's a lot of coach development involved. There's a process in place, and the structures are very good. I think we're very fortunate here with the strength of our schoolboy rugby. You couldn't really compare the two. If I look at the magnitude and the intensity and the way rugby is conducted here, as opposed to the difference is the structures in place. England rugby are unbelievable, and they have the income, so they have guys who are watching all the schoolboy games. They're linking that to the premiership teams, and the best boys get put into lead player development squads, and so although they don't compete with our school rugby, they've got a system in place where the best boys are channeled through, and there's pathways in place. And I think we still haven't got our pathways 100%. I know Russell has done some good work, but I think it could still be improved. And if you look at the talent we have, you know, we should be producing a lot more, I think.
Yeah, definitely. And I think what you said there was so true, that they play Saturday rugby for their school. Sunday they play club rugby. Our guys don't. That's a simple matter of fact.
Yeah.
And I think that's also a big drive.
Yeah. If you look at Griquas, for example, a lot of the players that come through, you know, we maybe have a smaller squad. The biggest out, I think, was 35 players, but only 15 plus the bench, now 23, get an opportunity. If you're not selected on that Saturday game, there is no club rugby really of a standard high enough for those boys to get involved. So it was good to see the Bulls and the initiative of trying to recreate club rugby, the Colton League, and it's been, I think, quite successful. We do have good club structure, and they put a lot of work into it in the Western Cape. So think about it. There's very little, if you look at how the boys are channeled, if they don't go to university, there's no reporting or monitoring.
Sure.
In England, we knew exactly the dropout from, say, under 19 and then further at under 23. The clubs in England, not always perfect, but a lot of clubs are running 5 senior sides. They'll have a Colts team, and then obviously all the junior sides. So the boys played. I was at Bishop's Stortford. It was one of the most amazing clubs in England. Didn't pay players to play at National League, but they had lots of sponsors and a lot of incentives for the players. But a lot of the boys have played for the club and we've done very well. I say I've moved on obviously, but boys have come through the club from the Colts. They've gone off to university, they come back and they want to play for Stortford. We don't have anything like that here. If you don't play professionally or you're not being paid by a top club, it really is difficult to continue playing rugby, I think.
Yeah, so lots of work to be done, and it seems a bit frustrating at times because you can see what we can achieve, and we're doing it from a Springbok point of view the best we can actually. But just imagine how good we would be if those things were put in place. But
100%.
Anyway, it's
I have to. Because a lot of people ask me, and I say we've got a lot more talent in South Africa, and I'm very proud of it. But the other area where I think England and RFU, and they spend so much money and resources going and learning from Australia and New Zealand and bringing those coaches in to come and help us, that the coach development and continuous coach development is in place. So you've got, say, someone like me who's got a level 3 15 years ago. There would be continuous development for me. There would be a pathway where hopefully if I'd stayed in got on to level 4, I'd have been linked to maybe a premiership club eventually. And New Zealand definitely has it, and Australia do, because they've got limited numbers and they have a different problem. But yeah, I mean, it's hard for some coaches who've been coaching for years to even get onto a level 3. In England, a level 3 has become sort of nowadays is if you're a decent coach, you can go and do a level 3. You have to apply for it. People get given credit ahead of other people. So the structures just, I think, could be improved. I think if we did that and spent a lot of money on developing coaching and the coaching structures, I think we could be already number 1 in the world. But I think at grassroots level and the way we coach at schools, the way we coach at clubs, I think it's endless what we could achieve.
Yeah, no, it's a conversation that could actually go on for a long time because it's interesting, and it's.
I'm very passionate about the coaching.
Yes.
So as head of rugby at Boishaai, I've put in 2 years of really hard work just trying to get the right, like say for example an under 14 ENF player or C or D. They've got to maybe, especially under 14, they always want to be with their mates, they want to play. Do they want to be running shuttles and getting absolutely drilled conditioning-wise? I don't think so. I think you're missing the point. And yes, you want to have fun in it, but does the win really matter, and who does it matter for? You could say the same thing at first team level. Who are we doing this with? Have we spoken to the boys and say, is it too much? Is it okay? What's the expectations like? And player welfare, player mentoring, etc. There's a lot of pressure on these boys. And for example, Boishaai, we are a multi-sports balanced approach to school, which I bought into. But at the same time, when you don't win, then you also see a different side. So, again, talk about structures, talk about what we've agreed upon, what's important. And Eddie Jones came out a while back and got claimed for it as well. I think he just got the message across wrongly. Is schoolboy rugby there for development, for a bigger picture, or is it an academy within a school and we're trying to create this unbelievable, unbeaten, win at all costs sort of mentality at a school? And I think we're very close to some schools and schools having to decide which way do they really want to go with their sport. And obviously I'm focused on rugby. but they're sports. And I think rugby in particular is just one of those sports where, I mean, you're seeing, for example, Paarl Boys. They just advertised a position for Head of Rugby. They had over 150 applicants, I believe, and they've had a lot of professional coaches apply for the role. And, for example, rumours are that Swayze de Bruin applied for it. And it was in the you never know if it's true or not. That's not what I'm debating there. What I'm saying is that a coach of that stature is interested in that role. The positives, but also the negatives, and what route other schools follow is going to be very interesting. And I very much believe that as schools, we've got to decide what is the right way for our school. Do we want a professional coach, or do we want someone who's brought into the school system, is there for the boys, and is supporting development and growth? And you can debate both sides. I'm not saying anyone's right or wrong, but I think we need to look at it very carefully, because I think in the end you could end up with 12 schools flying in and around the country and playing these classic clashes. But what happens to the rest of the school? What happens to your guys who love rugby but are playing in the C team or the D team? You know, so there's a lot to discuss. And again, those discussions aren't happening enough for me. And, you know, schoolboy rugby is fantastic to watch, but as you said, now imagine another year with COVID and not playing again. Or imagine we go down a different route and there's this big competition and it's huge and sponsorship, etc. You know, how does it change the school dynamic? And what kind of life do the boys? Are they schoolboys or are they academy boys playing in the school? Difficult one.
Yeah, look, Peter, but I mean, you're not the first person to mention this in a number of interviews that I have had. This seems to be coming up often, like guys are saying, hang on now, we're losing the plot here. You know, rugby's great. Don't lose the love for the game. It's a beautiful sport. And yes, the schoolboy rugby is exciting, things like that. But why are you coaching it? What is your objective? And I think that's the question they're asking guys now, is like, what are you after here? So yes, it is a very interesting conversation, and one that won't take 5 minutes to complete, I believe. So yeah.
So my fear, my fear at the moment is, and I see it all too often, is one, we don't take into consideration, you know, every year a schoolboy or schools go through a new group of kids. You got them for the season, maybe two if the boy's good enough. But my fear is that coaches copy in this country, and everyone's looking at the Springboks and the guy goes, the Springboks are winning this way. It's all about winning for me as well. I'm going to adopt this approach. So the 9s are going to box kick, 10s are going to kick more often than not, and they're not going to play any rugby in their own half. Everything will be about defense. It's going to be aggressive in your face. The boys are going to get bigger in the gyms. And truth is, it is a winning recipe. It is a way of playing rugby. Low risk. All it is about conditioning and fitness and defense, and squashing teams, making them unable to play. And I hope our schoolboy rugby doesn't go down that route, because it's very exciting. If you've watched any schoolboy rugby on a weekend, you know, there's lots of tries, there's excitement, and it's all in hand stuff. And I hope that continues and stays.
Yeah, definitely. But on that though, there's definitely a challenge that's come through, and obviously we know about it, but that's changed the dynamics, hasn't it? So that could actually lead to schoolboy rugby taking a different path, because things have had to be mixed up and changed, and your first team is not going to be the same as next year, because like everything's changed in so many aspects.
Yes.
Could that actually have an effect in terms of how guys actually approach rugby now, instead of just doing what they normally do? The things have to change now. I'm trying to think of a better way to maybe explain it. Like, it's a new challenge, but you're going to have to change your game up even more. So it could actually be.
Yeah. So what I'm busy challenging myself on is looking at how in the 3 years I've been here and what I sort of inherited and what's done in the past, is it actually the way we train and the boys getting up, say, at the early morning session before school, or an additional session in the week, etc., etc. Is it actually right? You know, is this the right way to go? Are we putting too much stress on the boys? are we looking after their welfare? Because a good rugby player traditionally will be involved in athletics or cricket, or maybe both. You might be at some of the other schools that have water polo, etc. You might be a gifted water polo player. So the boys doing continuous sport, having them to train, or you go to a school where you've joined rugby and all you do the whole year is rugby. And they train as professionals, not professional, but they train as professionals. And they are preparing from, say, September at the end of the season through to March the following year. They're on a 6-month course, and it's all about preparation for the first 2 matches. And, I think you can't say any school's right or wrong. I just think you have to have a relationship with the school has to be and what your vision is for rugby. And obviously you've got old boys, you've got parents and supporters, and it's not as easy as they close to saying, well, we're going to only train twice or 3 times a week like we used to do when I was at school and play on Saturday and enjoy it. And obviously you go out there to win with determination and desire and will. And if you lose, you look at it, but it's not the end of the world. You go out with your mates, you go surfing, or you go to the beach afterwards and you have fun. So there's a lot of things I think that could happen, or we should be discussing more going forward.
Yeah, so do you see possibly, and I know it's tricky because, TV brings a lot of attraction for you as a school, it does. Do you possibly see then that there could be a breakaway in the sense that you literally have your super schools, those guys want to play their thing, and you have other guys who have options, says, you know what, we'll be competitive at rugby, we're going to give it a jolly good go every Saturday, but we don't want to be caught up in that limelight. Do you think that could possibly happen, where some schools just want to focus on that Super League? They want to be in the Super League.
I don't think possibly. It was already attempted last year.
Okay.
So there was a push for a top 10. I attended many meetings, and there's lucrative sponsorship involved. It went down to the wire, and there were schools very interested in going that route. There are schools. We're very fortunate in the Cape where we have 8, and potentially even shift that as we develop to 10 schools. But currently in the A division, we've got 8 schools that are very competitive. The fixture list is incredible. Is there even a reason to be involved in this top schools kind of thing? But like I say, that's for the Western Cape. You've got Wonderbosch, Stakes, Bishops, and Wynberg, and then you've got sort of what we call the Boland, the Wineland schools, Paarl Boys, Boland, Malherbe, Pim, and ourselves. So already there's mouth-watering fixtures. And you look at, but again, there's those discussions as well where the southern suburb schools or some of the wine schools are saying, do we want to continue this? Is this worthwhile for us, or do we rather want to go play Grey College or Uffies or one of those, Pasfontein, etc.? So there's, like I say, I think we're in the process of schools sort of making a decision, and it also depends on the route that they decide to take. So I'm quite proud that my Boishaai offers summer and winter sports, and we train hard, etc. But of course, how long can we keep it up to still compete? And my old boys want to be number 1, and we've lost to Grey, and suddenly you feel the heat and they want to know why. So what's the answer? Oh no, well, we balanced, and they don't want to hear that. They want to know what we're going to do to compete against Grey or Pim. That's the simple truth, really.
Oh, no, there's nothing quite like pressure, hey, Peter.
Yeah.
But
it's all about the boys, though.
Yeah, there we go. That's so important. What attracted you to coaching rugby in the first place?
I think I always loved the game, and I was always. In hindsight, I look back, what happened to me? I'll tell you a quick story. I've given up rugby. I was playing, but I was more social, and I was taking my squash quite seriously. And I finished the squash league, and a coach phoned and said, we need someone, are you keen to play? So I literally walked straight into the second team, played this game, and I loved it. Trained on 2 occasions, match on Saturday, and unfortunately broke my ankle. And I couldn't get up, and I was like, oh, I'm in trouble here. And the coach ran up and said, get up, we need you. So I'm trying, but I think something's wrong here. So just run it out. So I tried to run, and I fell down again. I said, listen, I've got serious problems. Literally, I got off the field, and 2 mates carried me off, and I was just left alone. And I thought, is this the way, is this how coaching works? This doesn't feel right. Anyway, broken ankle. My grandmother from England, about 3 or 4 years earlier, sent me I'm showing my age here, but a VHS cassette. And it was rugby coaching in England. There was drills and ideas for coaching. So anyway, I put it on. I phoned my local school, said I'd like to coach rugby. And I knew the teacher then, said, I can help you with the under 14s. I don't really know what I'm doing to an extent. And after 2 sessions, he didn't pitch up anymore. And I sort of coached the under 14As with 2 mates. And it just steamrolled from there. Suddenly I was meeting Basil Bay, and I was phoning guys for advice, and on the internet, and I was obsessed with it. I loved it. And I used to go watch Western Province train, and then I had a lucky break, went to England, and obviously I got a job in Aussie with an Aussie guy. Rob Drinkwater was my regional manager. And I think he sort of looked, this guy's sort of the right guy for us. And 9 years later, I moved to a school, and then the big break for me was, again, unfortunately, my father passed away, but he left me a bit of money, and I decided to use that. And I flew myself to New Zealand, and I went on this high performance coaching course. And through that, I met a lot of good coaches, and obviously I'd done my level 3 recently, and in England, and the guy I met, Harvey's, who's now Cheetahs, phoned me and said, would you ever come back to South Africa? And I said, no, of course I would. I'm doing all right in England, but I have to come home. And then obviously things happened, and he brought me back to Griquas, and then after a year he left, and I was promoted to head coach, and that's how it works, or how it worked for me. So I've been through everything. I've coached schoolboy, I've coached club, I've coached professional, and through the RFU gained a wealth of knowledge, especially on the coach development side and talent ID, etc. And it's sort of come full circle, and I just love coaching, to be honest, and being involved in rugby.
No, Peter, that's a great story. That's excellent. Yeah, I think coaches are irreplaceable almost. We can never underestimate their value. So it's good to see and hear your story. Really great. And yeah, wishing you well. And hopefully next season picks up. Let's hope. Let's be positive.
Yeah, definitely. I'm very positive. I've already predicted that on the 2nd of December, not the 1st of December, the 2nd of December will be the 4th wave. So again, during the holidays. Sure. And then, hopefully, I'm joking about it, but on a serious note, I just think the boys need it. We're not playing any more matches, but I've spoken to senior management students. We need to just carry on practicing till the end of the term. If the boys still develop skills. A number of schools have continued playing, and there's some nice matches coming up the weekend. But we've decided as boys there's too many risks involved, and we tried we had a go at it, and certain things happen, and we just hit it on the head, and it's just. Unfortunately, again, we create hope, and then the boys get excited, and then it gets squashed.
No, you're right, Peter.
For example, we had from the under 14, half the squad were in isolation.
Sure.
Someone tested positive, and then you got to isolate, etc. So very difficult, and it's again, unfortunately for the kids, it's not great, and parents. But it is the situation that we're in, and I'm very positive that next year it will come on.
No, I'm sure it will, absolutely. But Peter, you seem to go about your business in a quiet but effective way. Any truth to that?
Yes, it's true. I said to someone the other day, if I look at myself in my 30s, I've been knocking down doors and fighting everything that I believe in. And as you grow older, you learn how to deal with things. And I've become a lot more patient and relaxed. But my intensity in coaching and what I believe in for boys and my values, etc., haven't changed. And I put the boys first, and I protect them as much as I can. But I also want them to have a good time and enjoy the experience, because I love my rugby journey. And I think every boy is entitled to attend school who likes rugby, be treated properly and fairly, and be given opportunity.
No, for
It's
sure.
not always easy. We forget it sometimes with coaches. That boy in the under 14 east side, etc., is just as passionate and excited to play a rugby match on a Saturday as the 18 players.
No, definitely. But then style of play versus results, which means more to you?
It's a very, very good question. You should ask. If you look at the response that the Springboks got for winning on Saturday from a lot of people, it is a similar response that you get from all boys in an inter-schools game. Are they interested in how the game was played and what sort of spirit was played in and the running game, etc., or was it we won by 1 point, but great, we won. That's all that matters. So you got to, those are questions you have to ask yourself. My mentor at the time was Basil Bay, and we all know how Bishops play, and I like that way of playing. And I think a lot of sides in England in difficult conditions have shown that there is a different way of playing, and it's enjoyable to watch. And I think it depends. I think South Africa 2 years ago, everyone was moaning that we weren't winning and what we playing 3 years ago. And now we're winning, and people now complain, but we're playing boring and stuff. It's a difficult thing. For me, well done South Africa, keep going and making us proud. Would I like that for a schoolboy game? No, not necessarily. And would I like my boys to say, right, number 9, you just box kicking. This is how you're going to play in this zone. You do not do this, you do not do that. And I think you've got to get a fine balance on what the boys want and how they want to play and how they're enjoying it. And I think that's the key thing again. Are the boys enjoying it? Yes, they have to train hard, and even anyone has to train hard to be successful. But what length do you go to be successful, and who are you doing it for? And I think that's important to sometimes ask.
Definitely. Yeah, it's so true. And I like what you said because it makes a lot of sense to me. And just touch on what you said about the Springboks there. We've won. I mean, what more do you want the guys to do? And I think it was
test match rugby. Yeah, it's fantastic. It's test match rugby, and Argentina made it very difficult for us to play. I think. So, but again, if I look at schoolboys, quite interesting. In my first inter-schools experience, I obviously do a lot of analysis and research, just like any other good coach. And I basically, the build up to inter-schools, I said, boys, listen, this is a guaranteed formula of playing sort of winning rugby. You kick much more, you're going to kick off 9, you're going to hit the fence, it's going to be aggressive, etc. Or do you want to continue playing? We scored lots of good tries, it was exciting. The boys were nice and fit, and we liked keeping the ball in hand, and it was fun. And the boys said, "So, actually, we're doing it all year. Let's just keep going. It's great." We lost by 1 point. We lost by 1 point in my first inter-schools, and obviously it's terrible. It's not great. But looking back, I always give the boys the option. I think that's key at schoolboy. How do you guys want to play? If it fits, I'm all for it. Let's try and make it happen for you guys. And it depends what kind of coach you are and what you want out of the journey.
Yeah, no, for sure. But then, Peter, as you sort of draw towards the end, 1 or 2 more questions. How do you balance defense versus attack? Because, again, the guys want to score tries. They might want to do 1 or 2 flashy things, but you've got to keep it under control because if your defense is good, and Springboks are a good example, I think we've conceded, maybe 2 tries in 10 test matches or something ridiculous. I don't have the stats in front of me. But
I think it's 4.
There we go.
The nearest, 4, and the nearest to that is New Zealand with 15 against them. They second. So It just shows you how remarkable it actually is.
Yeah,
but again, just on that point, do you remember when Jock, Minova and Rassie started? Everyone was complaining about the wings shooting in and the easy tries we gave away. England had 2 at the time. And again, anything that you want to change, or it takes time to build up and process. And I think, you look at Jock, what he's achieved is fantastic. And obviously, him and Russell working together. And the players, of course. I'm so proud of it. It's great to watch. And it's awesome. It makes us proud as South Africans. Yeah. And so it's a very good question. And my personal view and approach is, I work closely with David Sardi, who works with me, and we try and do attack and defense together during sessions. One side will be defending, we work very hard, and we'll focus on that. I work on attack. I'm passionate about attack, and I want to try and break his defensive system down. And I think that's quite a nice way to do it at schoolboy level, where it's you're not just pitching up and you're just hitting bags and you're just tackling, and it's just defense. So we want the boys to play, and let the boys play, let them have a bit of fun and enjoy it.
No, definitely. No, it's awesome, Peter. But again, you mentioned fun and enjoying it. Hopefully, the guys don't ever lose that because they are still schoolboys. But anyway,
yes.
Peter, if we can sort of fast forward and come to the end of this, what's sort of the one thing that you're looking forward to in terms of, let's just say next season happens, it happens. What's the one thing you're really sort of looking forward to or excited about in terms of Paarl Boys Rugby?
To win every game.
That's fine, Peter.
I think it will just be lovely to see parents and supporters back, and the boys running out on the pitch. I'm so proud of representing the school and having that competition back. The journey to Bishops or Sacks, and eating that. The morning, your bacon bun, and just the excitement, and afterwards all the chat, and then from there, seeing family and friends who've come to watch. It's something that we've missed. I mean, cricket and athletics have been quite lucky. They've gone through 2 seasons now, and have managed to have a number of games, etc. But the rugby really, and hockey to an extent, it's been really tough for the boys. And I'd love to see a boy walk off the field and get hugged by his parents and see the emotion and being proud of them. And I think that's the side that I really enjoy about schoolboy rugby is to see the boys having given everything. Yeah. Just to play again will be fantastic for me.
No, excellent, Peter. Yeah, quite nothing like schoolboy rugby, like we mentioned, and it's good that there's healthy competition. Hope it always stays that way. The right aspect of it. But interesting times ahead, I think, in more ways than one. I see possibly a change coming. Well, I shouldn't say possibly. I think there's going to be a change in approach to rugby. So let's see what happens. But anyway, thanks so much for your time, Peter. I really appreciate it.
Brian, thank you very much to you and the sports editor. Well done, and I think it's a great initiative. Good luck to you, and it's been awesome chatting to you. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. Cool, Ryan. Yes, it's lucky to chat to you.
Thank you.
Cool, brother. Thanks a lot.
See you in person.
Yes, it's lucky, man.
No, definitely. Lekker, my man. Go well.
Thanks, bud. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.